I just feel like I need to do like a quick little disclaimer or something. Do you guys remember when we were just like talking about Webtoon, yeah? And I was just like, yeah, fuck Webtoon, and how I basically quit that platform and stuff. And I can sit here on Twitch and be like, yeah, fuck Webtoon. Yeah, I don't need you. And, you know, it's a bit more comfortable for me to do that because I'm not dependent on Webtoon. Now, we're gonna watch a video that is 42 minutes long. So I suspect that with my pausing, this is gonna take 15 hours. I might actually turn it up to 1.25 speed or something. And I just want you to know that I am not here for like the whole panicky stuff about, oh my god, Patreon is doomed, blah blah blah, run away everyone. Talking about this is a little bit scary for me because I know how fleeting support is for certain platforms and how quickly people can abandon something if there's even a slight rocking of the boat. Do you know what I mean? So talking about this is quite scary because I don't want to lose the support I have because I depend on Patreon to pay my bills. So I'm not comfortable right now. And I also want other people's input on this because I watched this at about 6:30 in the morning. And I was very tired and I got a bit scared. So I was like, fuck it, I want to watch this when I'm a bit fresher in the head and maybe with the input of other people. We'll see what you think. Yeah? Okay, so without further ado, this is a video by Tom Nicholas. Right, we're gonna actually up the playback speed to 125. You ready?
Patreon is in crisis. It's in a financial crisis, but also an identity crisis. One which risks undermining...
Can you hear that? Let me also turn on the CCs. There we go. Okay, here we go.
Some of its most fundamental founding principles. And I think both Patreon creators and their supporters should be pretty concerned. Let me explain. About 6 months ago, I received an email from Patreon, which makes me sound way more important than I am.
I also got this email.
It was actually just a mailing list email, which was sent, presumably, to every creator with a Patreon page.
That's
Nevertheless,
me!
I received an email, which was
A
sent
little
from
louder would
Patreon
work. Okay, on it. Okay, how's this?
to me, among others. The email revealed that Patreon was going to be removing the goals feature from creators' pages. For the unacquainted, this was a function which allowed creators to set a series of targets, either for how much money they were receiving each month or how many total supporters they had on the platform. And
so I got this email, and as before then, I'd actually started using the goals feature on my Patreon, and I was very excited about it because I was I'd been doing like a little revamping of my Patreon, like a couple of months back or something, where I had changed it so instead of showing how many patrons I had, I think I just made my income public, and then I put as part of my goals, like, if we reach this amount, it gives me enough to be per page to have like a minimum wage page rate. If we get to this amount, it means that I get paid per page what probably I should be paid as like a standard. If we get to this amount, I actually am getting paid in a really nice way for my page, like as a skilled laborer, if that makes sense. So like I had used my goal thing to literally try to make it very transparent, like how I was using Patreon, so that per page, comics-wise, people could see how much I was getting. Obviously, then we have the complicated thing of whenever you've done one upload, obviously everyone's caps start hitting, so you don't actually get the same page rate for the second page that you upload to Patreon. But whatever, that's besides the point. The point is that I was using goals. I fucking loved it because it could literally show people what my page rate what I would like my page rate to be, and they could be part of helping me get there. So yeah. So then I got this email like Tom, about the fact that they were going to kill off the goals thing. And I was like, why? You're so fucking good.
It always seemed to be a relatively popular feature.
Yeah.
Many used it as a way to incentivize more sign-ups by promising to make particular in-demand bits of content only after crossing certain milestones. The decision to remove such a useful, popular feature was a bit of a shock. But it was their rationale for doing so which really caught my attention. To quote that email, which was sent personally to me, goals were originally intended to help creators grow their pages. But we found only 4.5% of creators with in-progress goals were gaining more patrons. Let me repeat that last bit for you.
Squirrel thank you for the follow. Welcome in. I normally make comic books, but we're taking care of a post-vet doggo over there, so he might need me. I use Patreon to get basically my bills paid. So, yeah, I just, thought it would be nice to watch this with everyone else. And then we can all cry. Or laugh, depending on.
Only 4.5% of creators with in-progress goals were gaining more patrons. It fascinates me that this figure didn't come under more scrutiny at the time. Trawling the internet, the most I could find about this was a single tweet from Patrick Willems and a Reddit thread with less than 35 upvotes. Either no one had noticed or no one dared talk about the obvious implications of that 4.5% figure. That Patreon might not be in the rudest of health. The long and the short of it is that it's not. After years of mind-boggling growth, a sudden stagnation in the number of new creators and supporters joining the site has shaken Patreon to its core. Worse still, the panic this crisis appears to have provoked in the company's investors and management has prompted the rollout of sweeping changes to the platform, which not only risk exacerbating that crisis, but ultimately undermining Patreon's founding mission of enabling...
Any fellow Patreon users here? Do you guys remember Lens? I tried to use that like twice, and it fucking sucked. Like, it just didn't work. And then I think I also just got an email about them offering merch sales as well, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, the whole point of Patreon, I'm getting ahead of myself, but like, the whole point of Patreon is to essentially allow... You're just like a processing place that allows people to support creators. Why are you trying to become Snapchat? And why are you trying to become, I don't know, Shopify as well? What's happening? So yeah, it's like Lens happened before COVID. Because I remember going into my local art shop and trying to use Lens to be like, hey guys, I'm going into my art shop. Yay, let's go and shop for some art supplies. Woo! And then it didn't fucking work. And I was like, well, this is shit.
creators to make a living from their work. This video has been a tricky one to make. I like Patreon. I think it is a good service at its core, and that its impact on the online creative landscape has overall been a massively positive one. But to truly understand the magnitude of the crisis that Patreon is facing and the difficulty of finding a way out of it, we need to understand the journey the company's been on so far. The story of Patreon is one of creators and creativity, yes, but it's also one of vanity, venture capital investment, and stock valuations. At its heart, it's something of a morality tale about how profit-oriented investors...
Honestly, the moment I heard venture capitalist, I was like, oh, here we go again.
can corrupt even the most exciting ideas. Come with me then and witness the rise and fall of Patreon.
I'm trying to think when I started my Patreon. Was it 2017
On the 7th
or 2016?
of May 2013, Jack Conti uploaded this video to his YouTube channel. It's a music video for his then latest song, Pedals, which is, for the record, an absolute banger. All the lyrics are taken from the names of the many, many effects pedals in Conti's music studio, and it features two separate motorized robots. Nevertheless, the video is less notable for the song itself than for what comes after it. After the credits roll, Conti explains that he and a friend, Sam Yam, have just launched a website called Patreon.
It's like a Kickstarter for people who release stuff on a regular basis instead of people who are just concentrating on...
I started my Patreon in 2014, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe Patreon as a company started in 2013. Am I fucking on you? I don't know. I don't know when Patreon as a company became a company. But to give you an idea, I have been on Patreon as a creator since 2014. This is a long ass time.
One thing, like a movie or
It just
an
said
album.
2013,
it's
yes.
for the thousands of content creators now.
So I just
tens
joined
of thousands
1 year later.
who have this beautiful, prolific output, and it's for them. It's for us.
Now, this was a pretty bold way to describe Patreon as it then existed. Far from tens of thousands of creators, at this point it featured just 3. Conti himself, his girlfriend Natalie Dawn, and their roommate Lauren O'Connell. But it reflected well the ambition he had for the site. According to company law, Conti had come up with the idea for Patreon the previous January. By this point, he was already a pretty successful creator, with a sizable following on YouTube for both his band, Pomplamoose, and his solo career. But the finances of it all weren't really adding up.
So this is an actual snapshot of my YouTube dashboard from a 28-day period that shows 1 million views and $166 of ad earnings for those views.
Of course, the reason that Jack Conti is on the TED stage here is that he wasn't the only creative type struggling to balance the books in the mid-2010s. This was an industry-wide problem. The internet had made it possible for artists, writers, musicians, and other creatives to build global fan bases without needing the approval of the corporate gatekeepers in their respective industries.
Yeah, fuck you,
but
global
few had managed to turn this
corporate
online popularity
gatekeepers.
into an income. A strange scenario existed where it was possible to have a
10
sizable,
years and I still can't
passionate
explain what it
following, and yet
is to
still be
people.
struggling to pay the rent. By 2013, the idea that creatives might solicit funding directly from fans had been around for some time. Kickstarter and Indiegogo had both played host to some pretty significant creative success stories.
good shit.
Jack Conti's real innovation was to note that whilst these sites worked well for one-off projects like an album or film, most
comic
online
book.
creators didn't work on that kind of staccato, one project then the next basis. They were constantly releasing stuff. So he wondered, what if you took that crowdfunding concept and rebuilt it around a monthly subscription model? It's no exaggeration to say that Patreon was a pretty
I mean, that is literally how I describe it to my parents. I just say that it is like a monthly tip jar. And that's how I've been describing it for years and years. But then when people start going, yeah, but you're getting paid per thing. And that's when I'm just like, yeah, I've set it up that way. And then I have to sort of describe what that means and why I've done that and yada yada. But yeah, it's literally just a monthly subscription service rather than a big thing like Kickstarter. I'm not sure if my parents still get it though.
instant hit. Just weeks after uploading that music video, Jack Conti had accumulated pledges of more than $5,000.
Hello, Jalora.
Within 2
Hello,
weeks of
y'all.
launching, I was making
Did I say hello
6
to you
figures
before?
as a creative person. Like, within 2 weeks of putting up a Patreon, I didn't change my videos, I didn't change my music, I didn't change my anything. I just put up a Patreon page.
Far from finding it cheeky or crass, fans seemed to be genuinely enthusiastic about helping to financially support the content they loved. Unsurprisingly, as news of Conti's impressive sign-up stats began to spread, more and more creators were tempted to try Patreon out. 3 creators
Like
became
me.
6, which became 15, which became 50, which became 100, until just after 6
2014,
months
baby.
post-launch, Patreon was helping thousands of creators fund their creative ambitions. Okay, so far, so heartwarming. The story of Patreon's founding is undoubtedly a pretty charming one. Compare it to that of YouTube, which was dreamt up to make it easier for its founders to find footage of Janet Jackson's famous Super Bowl wardrobe malfunction. Or Facebook, which grew out of a website for college students to rank their peers based on perceived hotness. Patreon's origins, by contrast, are just so wholesome. The fact that Jack Conti, who remains Patreon's CEO to this day, is also a creator himself, lends a real sense of authenticity to the platform. Now, there's no doubting Conti's creative credentials, but it's worth recognizing that Patreon is ultimately a Silicon Valley startup founded by 2 Stanford graduates.
This is where I was watching the video and I was going, oh no, I'm in danger. Because, I knew that Patreon was created by a guy who was literally a musician himself, and I knew that at some point they invited venture capitalist fuckheads in. But I thought that they had done that quite late. And also, I didn't really think that they were sort of like a Silicon Valley startup thingamabob, because the vibe I'd gotten from them was, he's a musician, he's It's so cute. He's a creator like us. Yay, let's go. Are we ready to be sad?
And despite attempts to distance itself from the Metas and Googles of this world, it's often followed a pretty similar path to those less well-loved companies. In fact, if we wanted to isolate an inciting incident for Patreon's present crisis, it would lie in Jack Conte and his co-founder Sam Yam's decision just 2 months after Patreon went live to negotiate $700,000 in investment from a venture capital firm named Freestyle Ventures. For the uninitiated, venture capital, or VC funding, is a form of business financing popular amongst Silicon Valley startups. How it works is that a venture capital firm will provide a startup with a chunk of money in return for an ownership stake in that company. In the ideal scenario, the company will use that money to grow, at which stage they will solicit more VC money, and more, until, when that company has proven itself a success, it will be floated on the stock exchange, allowing the VC firms to sell their shares at a massive profit. Conti and Yam have consistently and enthusiastically embraced this strategy. By the time Patreon was 3 months old, it had raised $2.1 million in investment, primarily from venture capital firms. And this quickly became something of a habit. Over the next 8 years, they would raise a total of $410 million in this way. Whether or not Patreon would have been able to revolutionize the creator economy in the way that it has without this kind of investment remains an open question. There's no doubt that building the company to the scale that it is today required some capital. But at the same time, the company has always managed to grow pretty organically. The beauty of the product is that the more creators that sign up and start promoting their Patreon pages, the more other creators hear about it and sign up too. Either way, Conti and Yam's decision to hand over so much equity to such single-mindedly profit-oriented investors would eventually come to threaten many of their platform's founding ideals. But before the fall, the rise. Because whatever Patreon's present failings, its successes are staggering. In just a few short years, the model of subscription crowdfunding the platform is built upon went from being completely unheard of to a central force in the creator economy. It wasn't a foregone conclusion that Patreon would be the sole dominant player in this. Early on, it had several competitors. The most notable of these was a site called Subbable, which had been launched by
I didn't know about that Subbable was a thing either.
Patreon, which worked on a very similar basis. It would take regular donations from fans and distribute them to creators. The Green brothers, however, took a much more cautious approach to growth. For various reasons, Subbable remained invite-only, with creators having to apply to join. The benefit of this was that it allowed Subbable to build a sense of prestige around its select roster of popular YouTubers. The downside was that it allowed Patreon, which had enabled anyone to create a profile from day one, to gather a momentum which Subbable simply couldn't match. By the time Subbable had onboarded 24 creators, Patreon had over 10,000. The result was that
I was on that little
was
train there.
Everywhere. Even the most
Choo-choo.
casual YouTube viewer or podcast listener had at least some idea of what it meant for a creator to have a Patreon page, and what it meant to be a patron of someone. In fact, Patreon often felt less like a platform or company than a cultural phenomenon. The platform's ultimate victory was secured in March 2015, when Jack Conte announced that Patreon had bought Subbable for an undisclosed amount.
See, I didn't know this at all. I had no idea that Subbable was a thing that was created by other YouTubers at the time, and that later on, they just got bought out by Patreon. I had no idea that that was even something that was happening. But yeah, it does show that Patreon just had a fucking, like, already starting to get like a monopoly on everything. It's just like,
oh, I see tasty little competition over there. Ah, nom nom nom.
So, I'm trying not to be too doom and gloom, as usual. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty scared.
In doing so, it had established an effective monopoly on subscription crowdfunding. Other competitors like Ko-fi limped on, but their relative footprint was pretty tiny.
Also, sorry to keep pausing, as I keep always saying, Ko-fi is completely anti-NSFW content. Even if you'd make NSFW content and you post it on Ko-fi, you are on borrowed time, because it's not allowed. I don't think they even allowed any kind of nudity unless they changed that, but last time I checked, you can't even do artistic nudity on there. Nothing. So, I don't know. I think Thief was saying that it's mainly because of the chargebacks, which is, it costs too much money. So it might not be like their actual, you know, pearl clutchiness. I don't know. But it might just be like it's not worth it for them. But yeah, Patreon, on the other hand, has gone from, back in my day, when I started Patreon back in the day, in 2014, they were like, we're okay. You know, you'd be all right with that sort of thing. Just don't be too crazy. And then I was reading their terms of service, and it was like, you are not allowed to post anything that can elicit any kind of sexual gratification. Like anything. It was very, very vague. So it's just like, if you find chocolate hot, then, and you post some chocolate pics, then oh my god, you might be out. Like, and after that, they seem to have backtracked again and gone, we actually love people who make NSFW content. Do you make erotica? We love you. I literally got an email from them where basically they were like, hey, come and join us in our creator meetups for erotica content creators. And I'm like, what happened to that terms of service that you used to have? Why have you backtracked? I don't trust you. I'm scared. Why do you keep changing?
All of this was surely cause for celebration among Patreon's staff and investors, but its impact on creators would be mixed. Patreon had changed the game and made vast swathes of creativity possible, which otherwise might have simply been financially inviable. Nevertheless, the lack of any meaningful competition placed many creators' livelihoods entirely in its hands.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to fast forward a bit here to January 2019 and show you this headline. It reads, Patreon's CEO says the company's generous business model is not sustainable as it sees rapid growth. This headline was the result of a interview that Jack Conte had given to CNBC, in which he'd claimed that the company would need to make significant changes to its pricing structure if it was going to remain profitable. This was an intriguing statement. At the time, Patreon was on top of the world, with 128,000 creators using the site. In fact, according to that same article, Patreon was on track to process $500 million in pledges that year. Given that, at the time, it took a flat 5% cut of all pledges after processing fees, this would have given it a total revenue of $25 million after the cost of processing payments had already been taken into account.
They're not fucking struggling.
Given that processing payments is the main thing it does...
Yeah, they're a fucking online bank.
Of course, few would bemoan Patreon making enough money to pay its staff and turn a profit. But remember those venture capitalists from earlier? By 2019, Patreon had raised $105 million in investment, much of it from VC firms. And venture capitalists
and they will come and
collect a bit of profit. The risky nature of their investments means that they need those which are successful to be really successful. The industry rule of thumb is that a successful startup should provide a return of 10 times the initial investment. Profitability for Patreon meant turning that $100 million into $1 billion. The signs that this might impact Patreon's relationship with creators first emerged as early as 2017.
Oh, is this the one I think it is?
This update to its official blog. The update revealed plans to...
Oh, do you remember this? I think I was at the time at a book club, and I got like a message about this, and I was at this point in 2017, I was still on Twitter, and I started like checking Twitter, and I was like, people are losing their minds, what's happening? And it turns out that basically Patreon were trying to introduce a new fee. He's going to talk about it, but like I'll just say it quickly as well. They were trying to do a new fee structure, which basically meant that everyone who supported you for like the lowest like mark, like what, $1 or £1, they would take, like they would put all of the processing fees on those people, so they would then be paying like £2-3 or something for their £1 pledge, something like insane. And people were just like, I can't afford that. At which point you would lose all of your fucking main like stable thing of patrons, because you only have don't get me wrong, I fucking love my high patrons, like,
and also they get like little special shout outs in my videos and shit.
But like, I love them, but a lot of the stable support tends to also come from the low bracket of people. And like, if you have one person who like supports you for, I don't know, a tenner, then if they leave, then that's going to feel a lot more, that's going to hurt you a lot more than, you know, lots of little people with like the little one buck, if that makes sense. Profit. Sorry, yeah, I'm rambling now, sorry, but I think this is the one,
Shift
isn't
the
it?
burden of processing fees from creators to their fans.
Yep.
While this would supposedly have saved creators some money on the back end, it involved supporters being charged an additional 35 cents plus 2.9% in fees on top of every pledge. The backlash to this announcement was brutal. Creators turned on Patreon, complaining that the fixed portion of the fee
I was one of the ones who turned.
disproportionately
I was
impact
like,
smaller
what are you
bands,
doing?
Some of whom for which it meant a nearly 40% price hike. More than this,
I
it
also
just
had
seemed to go
some
against the
friends
culture
who'd
of
been
the site,
long-term
pushing
supporters.
creators away.
Sorry, I had some friends who were long-term supporters of my Patreon who basically quit, and they were like, I can't be on this platform anymore. I can't support you this way. They supported me in other ways after that. But there were some people who just like, I can't do this. And then they left, and which is fair enough. So stuff like this, it just shaves off the support because people get scared. I mean, for a good reason. And then they're just like, I can't afford that, so they just cancel it. So this is another reason why I said in the beginning that like I am quite nervous even watching this on the on the internet, because I don't know how people are going to react to this. And I don't know how my personal Patreon, which is my way of earning money, is gonna suffer.
Away from drumming up lots of smaller donations and towards soliciting fewer but much larger pledges. After 6 days of creators threatening to leave the platform and fans cancelling pledges, the changes were scrapped, with Jack Conte forced to personally apologise for the fumbled rollout. But concern among investors that Patreon was being too generous in setting its fees didn't go away. 2 months after that 29 CNBC headline then, Patreon came back with a new proposal. Rather than hiking prices for fans, it would instead increase the percentage it took from creators. Where the company had previously claimed a flat
Which
5%
I
after
was
processing
more
fees,
okay
it would
with.
now offer
Like, we
multiple
can
plans.
take that cut
A no-frills
more
light
than
plan would continue
putting
to be
it on
charged at
people who
5%.
support us.
A so-called Pro plan, which closely mirrored the previous offering, would be charged at 8%. Finally, a Premium plan, aimed at larger creators, would be charged at 12%. These fee hikes were, in many ways, far more brazen than those which had been proposed previously. Nevertheless, the company managed to avoid a mass exodus by grandfathering in existing creators on what it called its founder plan, which remained at 5%.
I am
Obviously,
on
there
founders.
was still some risk that this new pricing structure would deter new creators from joining the platform, but events were about to conspire to turn any predictions about Patreon's future on their heads. Alright, let's do this one last time. On the final day of 2019, the World Health Organization received reports of 44 unexplained
COVID,
cases of
innit?
pneumonia in Wuhan, China. By February, the infection that had caused those cases
Isn't
had
it
been named
amazing how
COVID-19.
when
And by
we were
March,
all forced to
cities,
be
towns, and
inside,
villages across the world
that,
went
like, a
silent
lot of
as
online
quarantine
stuff
and lockdown restrictions
suddenly got a
confined
lot more
people to their
traffic?
homes. These were bleak times. A lot of people were scared for both their health and their jobs. But at the same time, folks had a lot of time on their hands, which meant two things for the creator economy. First, a lot more people sat at home
I mean,
looking for
Twitch
stuff to
went
watch,
mental
read, or
during
listen to.
COVID.
And second, a whole bunch of folks who now have the time to explore their own creative ambitions. The result for Patreon was a huge influx of both creators and supporters. Over the previous 12 months, Patreon's growth had been dwindling. But in just the first 3 weeks of March
Fucking
2020,
hell.
more than 30,000 creators joined the platform. Fans responded with almost 1 million new pledges.
Look at
the
that,
COVID-19
that is
pandemic
absolutely
almost served as
insane.
a second launch for Patreon. It led to a whole new wave of creators
The
discovering
time
the
of
site
bad
and
home
benefiting from
haircuts,
the
yeah.
unique relationship it enabled them to develop with their fans. For some, it provided a crucial slither of income during trying economic times. For others, it provided a whole new career path. But remember those venture capitalists from earlier? In September 2020, Jack Conte
Trying to
uploaded
forget.
another update to his YouTube channel.
Patreon just raised 90 million bucks. Woohoo! This is super exciting.
This new round of investment pushed the company's valuation to $1.2 billion. Then, less than a
Are
year
they gonna
later,
cash out?
Conte uploaded another video.
Patreon just raised $150 million Series F round of financing at a $4 billion valuation.
That's right. Patreon was now supposedly worth $4 billion. Suddenly, Jack Conte was everywhere again, hailed on podcasts and at conferences as the man who was shepherding creators into a new era of prosperity.
Okay, let's try this. We're gonna just repeat after me. Ha! Okay, now try this. Yes!
This characterization was very much of his own creation. He repeatedly claimed that his company being worth $4 billion was the sign of a coming second renaissance.
There's a feedback loop that started a couple years ago that's now cycling on itself faster and faster, and I believe it's going to lead to an explosion in creativity.
Back at Patreon itself.
Actually, I can't take ownership of this next take, because I was watching this video on the sofa in the morning, and I got to this bit when Husband was getting ready for work, and he came in and he was listening to this, and he was just like, I don't understand how all these like company owners or whatever, he said it in a much better, more husbandy way, but basically, how do all of these people not realize that because of the pandemic and people being, you know, locked in, there would be a massive spike? How do they not think that once the locked in thing stops, that like it would dip again? You can't keep going up. The line can't keep going up. So the fact that they don't seem to have they're still riding high, and then the moment people start, like, you know, with Twitch as well, when people started going back to work again, Twitch saw a dip as well. I noticed that as well on while I was streaming. And the same with Patreon as well. People were just going back to work and whatever, and it was just like, I noticed a dip. Why do these company owners not know that, like, why are they so short-sighted that they can only see it going up, and they don't go, oh fuck, maybe at some point it's gonna go down, and what do we do then? Cringe. Intense, man, is intense. See, this is why when I started watching this video, I was like, oh no. They do, but they're supposed to be hype men. Many of these investors have an exit plan, so it's all about, you just know, pump and dump and all of that, rug pull, blah blah. All I want to do, and I keep saying this over and over again, but like, all I want to do is just like be able to make comic books and make art and not have to be scared that you're gonna have like the rug pulled from underneath you at any point. Like, I just want to have the security of making stuff. Like, that's all. But like, the fact that you're constantly kind of going, well, is any of the platforms I'm on just gonna fucking implode at some point and then I'm fucked again? Like, you're constantly having to think that I need to grow, I need to go somewhere else, I need to just have an exit plan, because it's kind of like how the game is online, and I do not like it. Universal basic income, yes please, like, just a universal basic income so people can eat and live somewhere, and then, you know, we can just do stuff. Oh, fucking hell.
The exec team were preparing for world domination. They poached a new chief product officer from Instagram, who first fired a bunch of staff and then announced a massive hiring push, which he predicted would see the company double in size by the end of the year. And then, well, the worst stage of the pandemic subsided. People were allowed to leave their houses and see their friends again. That massive surge in creators and pledges turned out not to be the start of a new era, but the result of a very specific set of circumstances which had now passed. And for a company which had now absorbed more than $400 million in investment, that was going to be a problem.
Okay, before we start the next section, which is the potential fall of Patreon, I'm gonna just go and grab myself something to nibble on that is not sweet chocolate. So, you know, go grab yourself a drink. I just need a moment because it's gonna get a little bit scary now, okay? But also at the same time, let's not be all panicky. I'm asking you, I'm telling you, don't be too scared. That's my job.
Hello, what happened to your mouth? If you just joined us, my senior dog, he is gonna be 14 in a few months. Yeah, he has just had dental surgery. Good boy. Yeah.
So it's on that side. The entire lower bit on this side has no teeth now. Apparently, they fell out. There's also the same side where he was attacked on. So, you know, where one of the teeth were, like, broken. So I think that was probably, they were already a bit loose. So when they were cleaning all the teeth, they just fell the fuck out. So he has nothing on that side now, which means that if he's in a certain mood, he will have like a constant little blep going on because there's no teeth holding his tongue in. What is the stance of NSFW? Yeah, I've never really thought about Substack because I thought that they were also funded by venture capitalists. I thought Substack was basically created by other Silicon Valley startup bros, which is why I was not interested. And I thought that it was more for journalists and not for comic book creators. Right, everyone, should we have a look at the potential fall?
Since the end of lockdown restrictions, Patreon's growth has slowed massively. For 4 of the 5 years between 2016 and 2021, the total number of pledges processed through the platform had grown more than 60% year on year. By the end of 2022, that number had dropped to just 7.5%. Of course, in a sane world, this wouldn't necessarily be bad news. The platform at least was still growing after all, just at a much lesser rate. Companies can't grow forever, and this should be okay. But remember those venture capitalists from earlier? That final set of VC firms had bought into Patreon at a valuation of $4 billion. But stagnating growth quickly made that number look laughable. In September 2022, Patreon Senior Vice President Carlos Cabrera sent a memo to staff revealing that Patreon's valuation had dropped a staggering 70%. The company swiftly laid off 17% of its workforce and closed whole offices in Dublin and Berlin. And here's where things get worrying for Patreon creators and their fans. Because the VC firms which bought into Patreon will still want growth.
And yeah. So what it looks like, you know, up until that point in the video, is basically Patreon as a company seems to still be growing. They're just not growing fast enough. And especially if you keep on just comparing it to how fucking fast they exploded during COVID. But like COVID is such a... Hello! Such a special time that... do you want to come and sit with Jen Jen? You can come and sit with me. Closures in Europe where there are many more rules. Oh, okay, hold on. Wait. I'm just assuming the position. Okay, come on then. Yeah. Okay. I know. Are you comfy? Okay, I can't really lean in now. I hope you can hear me, because sorry, I just smacked the mic. I can't lean in. People not looking at the big picture, just blinking money, yeah. Why isn't this growing more? Yeah. What did you expect to happen? People were locked in during lockdown, and then when people actually started going back to work and doing other things, of course this shit's gonna drop. But it's still growing. That's the thing that's like fucking mind-boggling to me, is that it's still growing, but that's not good enough. It needs to be growing more. I mean, we're gonna come to the bit where it's actually, you know, talking about enshittification and stuff, which is the bit where I'm like, oh no. And I've already seen it. Because again, I've been on that platform since 2014. Back in my day. We were just about, you know, processing the money. We back? Alright, let's be scared for a bit.
If growth isn't likely to come from increasing the number of people using the site, it's ultimately going to have to come from increasing the amount of money that Patreon makes from the creators and fans who are already there. At this point, we need to return to those reconfigured creator plans from 2019, which were born of a previous era of stagnation for Patreon. Because, on reflection, they're kind of exploitative. See, when most businesses grow, they can usually expect to benefit from what are called economies of scale. If you're an artist who wants to sell t-shirts with your designs on them, it's generally much cheaper per unit to get 100 t-shirts printed than it is to print 10.
Yes.
This means that the larger your business grows, the more profit that you're able to keep per unit that you sell. Patreon's creator plans flip this on its head. The Lite plan has since been discontinued, meaning that small to medium-sized creators are most likely to sign up to the Pro tier. This will see them charged an 8% platform fee on all pledges. But if they grow to have a sizable number of supporters, then they might find it useful to have access to a Patreon partner manager or multiple admin accounts for different members of their team. By signing up to the premium plan, however, these creators not only end up paying more to Patreon through having more pledges for Patreon to take a cut of, but also paying a higher commission per pledge. My point here isn't to elicit a grand wave of sympathy for creators who are making huge sums through Patreon. Although I'm sure it's frustrating if you've got a team and bills to pay. I'm more interested in what this tells us about Patreon's business model. Take a look at this graph, which I made using data from Graphtreon. It plots descending percentiles of the 222,126 creators who have at least one public supporter on Patreon against the percentage of the total number of pledges which those percentiles receive. As you can see, the distribution is so skewed that you can barely even see the plot. If we crunch the numbers themselves, we find that, as of April 2023, more than 25% of public pledges processed through Patreon went to just 556 creators. That's just 0.25% of the total creator pool. More than 50% of pledges went to the top 1.75%. In fact, the bottom 80% of creators received just 10% of all pledges. Now, none of this is Patreon's fault. Neither is it much of a surprise. Audiences have always tended to agglomerate around a relatively small number of artists and creatives. But it does explain that seemingly backward approach to the pricing of Patreon's creator plans. Despite the impressive top-line figures which Jack Conte loves to quote about the total number of creators using the site, Patreon is actually heavily reliant on just a few thousand top earners. And there are signs that its business model going forward is likely to focus more and more on extracting a larger chunk of cash from those creators. The blogger and author Cory Doctorow likes to talk of what he calls the enshittification of online
Here we go,
platforms.
everyone.
Enshittification refers to a kind of mission creep which seems to affect all profit-oriented platforms at some stage in time. It happened to Facebook, to Instagram, and is currently happening to X too. In the broadest possible terms, enshittification describes the process through which platforms pivot their attention away from providing a useful, reliable service for their users and towards ensuring a strong return on investment for their shareholders. This usually takes place through the introduction of a stream of new features, which, rather than serving to improve the offer which initially drew users to a site, instead exists solely to increase revenue. This has certainly been in evidence at Patreon over the past few years, where a somewhat chaotic drive to launch new features seems to have taken over. There's been Patreon Lens, a since discontinued attempt to mimic Snapchat.
That was it. I tried that personally, and I hate to tell you that it sucked. Did not work, it was buggy as shit, and nobody looked at it.
Stories feature. Merch for memberships, a print-on-demand service which allows creators to offer merchandise as perks for their supporters.
Yeah, I think I got an email about that too, where literally they're like, "Hey, do you want to start selling merch to your patrons?" And I'm just like, "No, no, I just want my patrons to help me make comic books. That's it. Have we forgotten why we're here? Are you okay, Patreon?"
Patreon Video, which enables creators to upload videos directly to Patreon rather than embedding them from YouTube or Vimeo.
That is something that I was genuinely interested in, because you may remember I was saying this on the last stream, that I've been painting a lot of the Genital stuff and like drawing the Genital stuff, but I obviously can't show it. I can't do it on Twitch because it's NSFW, and I can't put it on YouTube because it's NSFW. But I was like, oh, can I upload it as an unlisted video on YouTube and then share it onto my Patreon and my membership site? Like, would that work? But then I was like, oh wait, can't I just upload it straight to Patreon? And that's what they're talking about here. Because that is something that I would genuinely maybe use. I'm still scared because it is lewd stuff and I'm not sure if I would be allowed to do that, but they do seem to want you to do it now, for now.
Not forgetting the more immediately controversial Patreon capital.
I had not heard about this until this video. Did you guys know that Patreon wanted to also lend you money?
Which reportedly
You know what I mean.
allows larger creators to take out loans from Patreon to be paid back through a garnishing of their future earnings. Since I've started writing this video, Patreon's
don't
gone
like
even
that
further
at all.
and announced the upcoming launch of what it's calling the new Patreon. This appears to be an attempt to turn Patreon into a replacement for creators' websites and mailing lists.
This is where I started having some real, stress sweats when I was watching this. I've also been told on the Discord that apparently Patreon has now changed their logo and it looks like a turd. Yeah, have you seen the new Patreon logo? It's a whole vibe. Welcome to my Patreon. Can you see the thing up there? That's the new logo. What is that? What's happening? What are we doing? But yeah, so this is where I used to have the goals and stuff, and so obviously I share now how much I make per page, and then I would have the goals thing. I just thought that was such a good idea, and then they fucking removed the goals thing. Anyway, sorry, I'm not gonna start ranting about that. Anyway, this is my Patreon. Wow, how cute. Okay, let's go back. You know, we've talked about the walled gardens of platforms on the internet a lot, and when he started talking about how Patreon is now trying to replace websites. So they're trying to replace artists' websites so that everyone is just on Patreon, and you get your actual mailing list through Patreon, you get your merch sales through Patreon. Well, there's no need to have a website anymore. You can just go to Patreon. That sent chills down my fucking spine. Because I'm like, no. No, Patreon is supposed to just be to help artists make stuff. You're nothing else. You shouldn't be anything else. What are we doing?
It will add a new, free membership tier to all creators' pages, in addition to a digital shop, which will let creators sell individual videos, podcast episodes, and more to fans who aren't necessarily signed up as regular supporters.
Go to someone's oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm getting so annoyed. If you want to support an artist, go to their website for this. If you don't want to be a patron of them, go to their website and buy their shit. Oh, yeah, put all of your eggs in our basket. Join our gated community. Yeah, oh my god.
If all this seems a little chaotic, it apparently reflects the company's culture behind the scenes. An article published in The Information earlier this year drew on interviews with over 20 current and former Patreon employees. And those interviewees painted a less than flattering portrait of Jack Conte as an incompetent and terminally disorganized CEO who is constantly jumping from one idea to the next in a manner which creates huge problems for the developers tasked with bringing his ideas to life. Nevertheless,
Not gonna lie, that sounds a little bit ADHD to me. Speaking as an ADHD person.
Yes, there are some
Hi, Kaylee.
commonalities between these features. Firstly, whilst most are pitched as making life easier for creators, they actually serve to further lock creators into Patreon's ecosystem. Patreon creators are already heavily reliant on Patreon itself. Jack Conte likes to boast about the fact that creators have access to their supporters' email addresses.
You get the email addresses of your members. You can download them in a CSV and take them somewhere else.
But
I need to be doing that. Ooh, I gotta remember to do that today.
the reality is that for most creators, the sheer hassle of migrating to a new platform would likely lead to a considerable loss in support.
It would.
These new features take this
Every
even
time you
further.
migrate, you
Patreon
lose.
previously prided itself on its interoperability, building or commissioning its own integrations for Discord, WordPress, MailChimp, and Vimeo. Features like Patreon Video and the new Patreon, however, work to replicate these services within the platform itself. Now, this might be more convenient for some creators, but it ultimately increases Patreon's hold over them. If Patreon can convince creators to replace their websites and mailing lists with its own proprietary features, it can make it much harder for them ever to move to a different platform. More important to the process of
Exactly. Like, this is the thing. The moment the platform tries to be everything for you, it should just... That's just red flags galore. I just gotta make sure that my dog isn't shitting everywhere. Hold on. He's on painkillers and stuff, so he might be a little bit funny right now. Who was it that said that put all your eggs in our basket? Yeah, this is the thing that really fucking scares me, is them trying to be everything. And that means that you're not doing the one thing you're supposed to do well, because you're just spread out to try to do all of the things. As people, like, I know this is someone who, I'm not only a creator, I also support other people on Patreon. I know how fucking annoying it is to try to, like, browse Patreon. Let's just continue, shall we?
Shitification, however, is the drive to increase revenue. And in addition to further tying creators to Patreon, many of these features come with slightly sneaky additional charges. We've already discussed the manner in which Patreon's current creator plans serve to extract proportionately higher fees from more successful creators. And merch for memberships follows a similar strategy.
Okay.
Whilst it's high cost.
Okay, what are you doing? You almost fell there. Do you want this? I'll give this to you. No. Oh, for God's sake. Pete, wait. Oh my God, hold on. Wait. Sorry, guys. Okay, come on then. Now you can. I'm ready now. Do you want your little blankie? Yeah? Come on then. Do you hear the little grumble? He's such a prick. Oh my God. Don't be sorry, this is important. Okay, am I allowed now?
Costs per product might be part of the course for print-on-demand services. The scheme also requires users to hand over an additional 3% of every single penny they make through the site, regardless of how many supporters actually join tiers with merch attached. Further, whilst you might have thought that native video was a pretty standard feature for an online platform in 2023, Patreon also plans to start charging extra for that at the beginning of next year.
See, this is where, again, I'm nervous, guys. I'm nervous. I've been on the Patreon train for many years. Seeing them do all this is making me nervous. And I know that without Patreon, I am more fucked. If I stop being on Patreon, I can't pay our bills. Like, we are in trouble. So when I see that they are now thinking about, well, they are actually apparently going to start charging for quite basic features next year, it's giving me Twitter X vibes.
As someone on the founder tier, all of this makes me a little suspicious about whether the new Patreon might be used as an opportunity to bring longer-term creators over onto the newer and more expensive creator plans too. Alongside unnecessary feature bloat and increased charges, however, the ultimate consequence of enshittification is the degradation of the core features which initially drew users to a platform. And Patreon's chaotic drive to build new revenue streams certainly appears to have led to a failure to maintain or improve the site's existing core functionality. That being the processing of regular payments from fans to creators. Because for most people, all of these extra features are entirely superfluous. As part of preparing for this video, I ran an, albeit entirely unscientific, poll on my YouTube community tab, which concluded that the vast majority of Patreon supporters check the site monthly or less.
Don't know if anyone here is a Patreon supporter of anyone, but I check, like, I support other people on Patreon, and I check monthly or less. I don't go in every day or every week to check up on the people that I support on there. at all. We know what this website is supposed to be. It's just a way for us to support other creators. We don't want to go to Patreon every single day to check up on everything.
As one user put it, I don't care about Patreon updates. It's just a banking website to me. But with its attention elsewhere, maintenance or development of this core functionality appears to have stalled. In August 2023, Patreon had a nightmare of a day. Firstly, an update to the platform's payment infrastructure caused a significant number of supporters.
Do you guys remember this? I sure do. This was just before, I believe, I was going to Sweden. And literally, I use Payoneer. And the money kind of fucking disappeared on me. This bit is like, this gives me the same kind of energy as that one time, and I will never forget it because it was like mildly traumatizing. That one time that my account got like not locked, but I guess it got like my money got held because of suspicious activity. And literally this was back in the day, and I was living down south on my own, and I was very much not in the same situation I am today in terms of finances. So like I needed that money on the fucking dot to pay my rent, to pay my bills, to pay for food, because I was like not okay. And they locked my money, and I was like, well, I guess I'm dead now. Like I literally, I think I had to go to my parents and be like, can I borrow? And my parents are not rich, okay? I can't remember how I sorted it in the end, but they did release the money, so they only held it for I think a couple of days or something. But that's all you need, a couple of days for it to be like fucking devastating for some people. And yeah, this was it gave me the same vibes where I was just like, well, the money is gone, and now it is duplicated. So my money was in two places at once, and I couldn't withdraw it. So I was there going, well, fuck me. So yeah, it was stressful, very stressful.
To be billed from an address in Ireland rather than, as had previously been the case, California. This led those supporters, banks and credit card providers to reject those charges as fraudulent.
Yep.
If that wasn't bad enough, Patreon's internal systems then recorded those users as having cancelled their pledges, leading some creators to report massive losses in support.
Luckily, I think I only lost 3 patrons through that. I think I only lost 3 patrons, which is still, it still hurts. But I did not lose as many patrons as some other people did.
Worse still, on the very same day, a seemingly unrelated issue led Patreon to block many creators from cashing out their earnings. See, Patreon requires creators outside the US to use a service called Payoneer to retrieve the money they earn through the platform. Payoneer has always been a pretty clunky service to use, with an opaque schedule for converting payouts from US dollars into one's local currency. But a problem with how Patreon sends money to Payoneer left some creators unable to withdraw their funds at all for over 48 hours. For a lot of creators, either of these events happening would have been frustrating. For both to have happened on the same day.
Sorry to just go back to like, oh my god, but for most people, I think, and me as well, most of my bills come out for the first 2 days of each month. That's when our health insurance goes out. That's when our pet insurance goes out, building insurance, all of these like insurance-y things that are very important go out on the 1st and the 2nd of each month for us. And that's also when I normally get my Patreon money. So I tend to just like immediately cancel out whatever is happening. So if my Patreon money gets locked for, I don't know, an extra couple of days, haha, oh no. Not the same kind of oh no as back in the day, because now I am married and like my husband, although he does not have a very well-paying job. He still is very, very good with money. So if we are fucked for any reason, then like we can work it out. But it's still bad. It's still bad.
Was terrifying. On the one hand, rejected payments were causing them to lose supporters.
Yes.
Whilst on the other, problems with Payoneer made the money from the transactions which had gone through impossible to get hold of.
Yep.
Over on the platform formerly known as Twitter, creators and their fans directed a justifiable amount of anger at Patreon. After a decade of convincing creators that it can be trusted upon to administer a portion of their income, many surely felt that the company should have built processes to ensure that either of these failures were impossible.
Well, the fucking...
Let alone
That's
both.
the point of
In a
your
manner which tracks
website.
perfectly with Cory Doctorow's Inshitification thesis, it's hard not to come to the conclusion that all the time and effort Patreon has been spending developing questionable new features to increase their revenue has caused them to neglect the key service which made the site popular in the first place. Even if those features weren't so obviously designed to extract more cash from creators, many users would still not care about them, continuing to view Patreon solely as a regular digital tip jar. But if a desperate, chaotic drive to increase revenue for investors leads that primary function to fail, then it's only likely to hasten the platform's demise, not save it. At the end of the day, this is a question of priorities. Patreon has always tried to set itself apart from other platforms, particularly.
You okay? Did you see the graph as well? And you got spooked? Yeah. You telling Patreon to get its priorities set straight.
Using the fact that it was started by a genuine creator to suggest that it always has creators' best interests at heart. The Patreon PR team must have been over the moon when a 2021 interview with Jack Conte for The Verge was headlined Patreon CEO Jack Conte on why creators can't depend on platforms. But the company's recent trajectory serves as a reminder that Patreon itself is a Silicon Valley platform.
It's literally you're a platform, mate. Like, you can't depend on platforms. What's Patreon? Patreon is a fucking platform. I just cannot with this shit.
Which, partly as a result of loading itself up on venture capital money, has found itself forced to engage in practices identical to those of other platform companies. There may still be plenty of Patreon staff who care deeply about creators and creativity. But by desire or necessity, the company as a whole has come to treat them primarily as vectors of revenue to be maximised.
Yep.
I hope, for the sake of creators who rely on it, that Patreon, or something like it, can be salvaged. Because
Sir!
I love Patreon's core mission. Whilst my own income through Patreon has always been fairly small, having some revenue which isn't tied to sponsorships or viewership has allowed me to make much bigger risks in the topics that I cover than I otherwise would have been able to. The demise of Patreon would certainly make for a much more boring online landscape, with creators forced to work to lower budgets and be much more views-oriented in what they make. I sincerely hope the platform manages to re-find its way. But whether that's possible in a situation where the company is so beholden to investors remains to be seen.
Yeah, so... Sir, my goodest boy, I know that you are not really full of the drugs. They should be like going out of your system by now. But you do have some paracetamol in you. Oh, how spooky. You okay? Is it hurting in your mouth? Yeah. You're a good boy. I'm sorry about the whole mouth situation. I'm sorry. We all think that you're great, though. Yeah. Yeah, the internet thinks you're great. I think you're great, too. Obviously. Yeah. Am I gonna be allowed to speak to the people who are here? Am I gonna be allowed? No, you can't have the crisps. No, you can't have the crisps. You joking? You kidding me? No, you can't. You can't have the crisps. Why don't you have any, like, I was about to say self-inshitification. No, that's chocolate. Chocolate is actually poisonous to dogs, honey. Please stop trying to unalive yourself. I know. Am I going to be allowed to speak to people now? How's your mouth? Oh shit. What? Yeah, I know. No. This has been my life for the last 2 days. I have not been able to do anything because if I try to work, this is what happens. He puts himself literally on top of my light box. And because he's had teeth out, it's not like I can tell him to fuck off. He's a lovely boy. I would not tell him to fuck off normally. But I would be a little bit harsher on him and I'd be like, look, I have to work now. This is, we've had enough now. But because he's literally recovering, he is getting all the cuddles he wants. Oh, okay, there you go. Okay. There you go. Okay, here you go. Look, if I give you this, does that mean that you will just leave me alone for a little bit? We're on borrowed time, everyone.
No mother, no work. I have no concept of it.
Right, anyway, so, what was I saying? Yeah, so, as you can probably see, that video, which I thought was very, very good, was quite enlightening in the way that it was making me realise that, yeah, venture capitalists have been meddling or been part of Patreon from the very beginning. I didn't realise that they invited in the vultures that early. It was just like a few months into the actual like company like existing. I should have like seen this coming. Like I've obviously there's been over the last few years, I do feel like every time you get an email from Patreon, by the way, the last one I got, I posted that in the Discord. But yeah, whenever you get an email from Patreon, at least I feel the way that it's just instant anxiety. But this is an email that I got a couple of days ago, where Patreon is saying, Happy Patreon-versary. Happy Patreon-anniversary. You've been creating on Patreon for a full year. That's a big deal. That's 365 days of doing what you love, building a community, and getting paid the way you want. Here's to you. Happy anniversary. I've been on Patreon since 2014. I know I shouldn't expect much, but can you not at least acknowledge that I've been on this platform since 2014? Holy shit. So, I personally don't think that Patreon will go anywhere, and obviously I am on there for as long as I can be. But this is another little like red flag that I'm just taking notice of it, and I'm just putting that in the back of my mind. I need to be taking some time to properly ramp up my entire like site studio thing, because right now, trust me, I'm so fucking thankful for the people who support me over on my site. Thank you. The fact that you are doing it when the site is literally, I don't want to say bare bones, because it does share everything with Patreon. Literally, the two are sharing all content. But it doesn't look great right now. Let's be honest. It doesn't look amazing, because I just haven't had the time to make it look good. But like I've got plans, and I have already started doing stuff on my website. So I've already started doing the whole like swapping around so that you get the 18 plus thing the moment you land on it, so there's no pop-ups. I've removed the pop-up because I know how annoying that is. I literally just had it there because I was scared that, I'd get into trouble. But like the first on the home page, it now says 18 plus OMG, please don't be here. This has like mature themes. I've also updated a whole bunch of other things on there, like little things. And I will be posting more sort of intros to each of my comics. So you get like a couple of pages for free of each comic. So I'm gonna redo that so it's easier for people to just like essentially browse my work and just get a couple of pages so you can get a vibe. So it's kind of like try before you buy sort of thing. Don't tell my Finnish boyfriend that I'm chatting with the Swedish. Oh no, not the Swedish. Huja vad hemskt. Tro mig, du vill inte jag ska börja prata svenska också. Då låter det bara skit. Bara massa bajs. My dog's looking at me like, you okay? You having a stroke?
No, sometimes, the Swedishness just comes out. Hur är det, lillpojken? Har du ont i munnen? Ja. Har de dragit ut tänder på dig? Min gammelgubbe. There you go.